Okay, so I think the best thing to do is just show you how this works. What we are going to do is we're going to go to, I've already went to the Ask Options Play GPT in the Chat GPT store, and as you can see, it'll give you a few different prompts that you can use already. That's already pre-built for you, so you can basically use them as copy. But I just want to show you kind of some of the setups that we already have, right? So the first thing let's look at some trades, okay? Let me just pull up some screenshots that I already have done previously this morning, just so that we can have this easily done. I just want to make sure I'm using the right one. What you can do is you can basically, here, let's just do this. Let's just do this live, right? Let's say I'm looking at Verizon, for example. Now, we just published Verizon as a trade idea in our loft report yesterday. We are now sending out, like I said, equity only technical and fundamental research so that you have more ideas to look at. And let's say I'm looking at selling a credit spread on Verizon Communications, right? So let's say this is a trade that I'm thinking about potentially placing on Verizon. We basically put out a bullish note here on Verizon. Maybe you want to look at selling a bull put spread on Verizon. So what you can do is you can basically take a screenshot of the trade idea that you're looking at. So here what I'm doing is I'm just basically taking a screenshot of the middle and right-hand panel. And what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to upload this into ChatGPT. And what I'm just going to say is simply, what do you think about this trade? It's as simple as that. No more prompts of, all these different rules. And previously I gave you a prompt that had 7 rules in it. You had to customize those prompts. You had to copy and paste those prompts. It was very clunky to do. It gave you the end result, but it was clunky. And the only problem also with the previous version of what we gave you is that it didn't customize the output. So not only did we customize the rules so that all you have to write is simply, what do you think about this trade? But we also make sure that the output that you got was more consistent. So we had more control over what the output looked like, what things that it was going to talk to you about. So as you can see, what it does is it analyzes the put vertical spread that you were looking at Verizon Communications. And what it looks at is it looks at the 2% rule, meaning how much is it risking for your trade. So it'll tell you if your portfolio is larger than $7,050, this trade fits within your 2% guideline. So if you have a portfolio value that's less than $7,000, this is telling you maybe this is a trade that might be exceeding your overall rules. Sentiment and trade, it'll look at the sentiment of the chart to give you a sense for if you're generally aligning with the sentiment of the trade. It'll look at IV rank, whether or not this is a trade that's favorable for buying or selling. It looks at the OptionsPlay score, liquidity, and whether or not the stock is gapped up for the day. And it'll tell you whether or not there is whether you're kind of chasing a trade or not. And generally, you want to avoid, if a stock is up 10% on the day, trying to avoid chasing those stocks, or at least being aware that you are chasing that stock. So this is something that we are looking at all of these different criteria to help you make that trading decision. So it gives you kind of a summary of your trades, whether you're aligning with the trend, whether you are favorable for buying or selling options, liquidity, OptionsPlay score, and earnings date, kind of looking at everything overall to give you a clear sense for how the trade is stacking up against the rules that we typically, or the criteria that we typically score each trade on, so that you have a much more conscious decision when you're making a trade, whether or not you're aligning with the majority of the rules, or if you're breaking any of these rules. These are the things that we have done to help you better understand. You can also tell it your portfolio size so that it can kind of help you better understand how many contracts you can trade. So this is something that has been built directly into the GPT. All you have to do is simply ask, what do you think about this trade? Any trade setup that you're looking at. So let's say maybe you're looking at Apple. And let's say you want to take a bearish trade on Apple. You can simply take a look at this. Maybe you're saying, okay, let me look at a bearish trade. Maybe I want to buy this put spread. you can basically take a screenshot of this put spread and ask ChatGPT, what do you think about this trade? And they'll basically look at that trade based on your new trade idea. So I can say, what do you think about this trade? And I'll basically now look at this trade against those same 6 rules again and give you a summary of that overall trade. So like I said, you don't have to code any of this anymore. You can just simply take a screenshot of any trade you're looking at in OptionsPlay, and it's going to look at these rules to help you make that trading decision. So telling you kind of what portfolio size you need to get into this trade, which one of these things you are aligning to with regards to liquidity, sentiment, whether you're buying or selling, the OptionsPlay score, an earnings date. So in this particular case, there is an earnings coming up between now and expiration. So it's giving you kind of a clear understanding of whether or not you are potentially trading when there's earnings coming up or not. So earnings coming up is not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but something that I think some investors sometimes forget about looking at as to whether or not there's earnings coming up or not. So like I said, I'm trying to make this as easy as possible so that no matter what trade you're looking at within OptionsPlay, giving you a tool that you can use to kind of evaluate a trade, run a trade by a set of trading rules, and be able to quickly evaluate that and make a trading decision on a much more objective basis rather than just simply saying, hey, I feel good about this trade or I don't feel good about this trade. Can you do this stuff manually? Absolutely. There's nothing that you couldn't do this manually, but this just makes it a lot easier because all you have to do is simply say, what do you think? And it runs it through all of your rules.